Are you curious about the best diet for diabetes? You're not alone. Many people ask this question. Today, we'll look at 3 popular diets. We'll look at their macronutrient profiles, we'll weigh the pros and cons, then we'll discover what truly works. My name is Robbie Barbero. I'm living with type 1 diabetes. I'm a 3-time Ironman triathlete. My current A1C is 5.5% and my time in range is 91%. I co-authored the New York Times best-selling book, Mastering Diabetes, and for the past 12 years, I've coached people with type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and everything in between. I've tried all of the diets in this video and their macronutrient profiles. I'll share my personal experience and what research says about each approach. First up, the ADA diet, also known as the Mediterranean diet. For the purposes of this video, I'm lumping the American Diabetes Association's recommendations along with what is known as the Mediterranean diet, because they're very similar. The macro breakdown is 40 to 55% carbohydrate, 15 to 20% protein, and 25 to 40% fat. These diets emphasize moderate carb intake, lean protein, and fat sources such as avocado and olive oil. It's essentially a slightly healthier version of what most people already do. So, if you want to make small changes, it's a good place for you to start. However, the outcomes will probably be small, which shouldn't be a surprise. A moderate diet gives you moderate results. If you want simple ways to improve your health, this is a solid option. You likely won't reverse type 2 diabetes this way, but you can expect better blood glucose control, a lower A1C, and a reduced risk of problems like neuropathy and heart disease. When I used this approach, I ate the healthiest ingredients I could find. I chose organic, free-range chicken, whole grain bread, and plenty of organic veggies that were cooked in extra virgin olive oil. I even tried raw milk for a while. But even after spending a lot on high-quality food, my diabetes numbers didn't improve much. This macro breakdown is high in both fat and carbs. You'll see soon that choosing a side makes a big difference in the results. The second approach is low carb. There is a range for how low you can go with carbs. The extreme end is a full carnivore diet. A low carbohydrate diet typically means eating less than 100 grams of carbohydrates per day, with carbs being less than 30% of your overall daily intake. If you're taking a keto approach, which is when you really get the bang for your buck by cutting carbs, then your macro breakdown is around 5 to 10% carbohydrate, 20 to 30% protein, and 70 to 80% fat. And a carnivore diet takes the carb count as close to 0 as possible. Research shows that ketogenic diets can help you achieve rapid weight loss. They also improve diabetes metrics, such as lowering A1C. However, the results are not necessarily better than what can be achieved through other methods. For instance, a 2017 meta-analysis of 32 studies found that energy expenditure and fat loss were greater with low-fat rather than low-carb diets. A 2020 debate on ketogenic diets found that they often lead to quick weight loss and lower A1C levels. However, the diet can be hard to maintain. It may also raise cholesterol and lower fiber intake, causing long-term health issues. The authors found that other diets can reach similar results. Plus, they may be safer and more sustainable. If you love meat and high-fat foods and wouldn't miss eating things like potatoes, rice, bananas, and mangoes, then maybe this diet could work for you. You wouldn't be reversing the root cause of prediabetes and type 2 diabetes, but you'd be applying a Band-Aid that does keep your blood sugar steady as long as you don't indulge in carb-rich foods. Let me explain what I mean by that. When you have high blood sugar, it's because you have excess glucose, aka sugar, in your bloodstream. Glucose comes from carbohydrates in your diet. So if you stop eating carbs, you stop having excess glucose in your blood. But high blood sugar is just the symptom, not the root issue. If you have a leak in a pipe and you just don't turn on the water, then nothing will leak anymore. But that's not solving the problem, because if you run the water, the pipe will still leak. And it's the same thing when you solve your blood sugar issues by not eating carbs. When you don't eat carbohydrates, you won't have high blood sugar because you're not eating any glucose. But that's not actually solving the problem, because if you eat carbohydrates, you'll still have high blood sugar. I can say that I had the best blood glucose control on a super low carb diet. But I also felt worse than ever. I experienced what's called the keto flu. I felt sluggish and had brain fog. I had no energy and even blacked out on campus in college. That wasn't worth it for me, so I ultimately decided to try a different route. So, overall, a super low-carb diet can produce certain results you're seeking to support your diabetes health, such as weight loss and a lower A1C, but it is often hard to maintain and can come with some significant downsides. The third approach we'll cover today is basically the exact opposite of a ketogenic diet. Rather than being on the far end of low carb and high fat, it's the far end of low fat and high carb. The macro breakdown for this approach is 70 to 80% carbs, 10 to 15% protein, and 10 to 15% fat. Like the ketogenic diet, this dietary approach is associated with weight loss, better blood glucose control, and a lower A1C. How it differs, other than the obvious of getting to eat things like fruits and whole grains, is that this approach reverses the root cause of prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. Instead of only avoiding foods that produce glucose, it tackles the root issue. This diet helps remove intramyocellular lipids from your cells. These lipids block insulin signaling, lowering insulin sensitivity. With this diet, you can eat 75% carbs and need less insulin than before. In addition, this diet is associated with long-term health in every category and lower overall mortality. This is where I've personally landed. It was an easy decision for me because I love fruit and I feel amazing eating this way. I have tons of energy, so much that I actually completed 3 full Ironman races in 1 year. I've been following this diet for over 19 years now, and the results speak for themselves. My blood sugar control is steady with a time in range of 91% on my CGM. My A1C is consistently in the 5s with a current A1C of 5.5%. My BMI is in the optimal range, currently at 21.5. My lipid profile is all in the optimal range. I have an abundance of energy and I don't take any other medications other than insulin for type 1 diabetes. So there you have it. 3 macronutrient breakdowns and how they affect your diabetes. Of course, the outcomes you achieve from a diet are about much more than just the macronutrient breakdown. The foods that you eat to achieve those macro percentages absolutely matter. That being said, it is a helpful tool to use when you're crunching your own personal health equation to best support your diabetes health. Numbers don't tell you everything, but in this case, they do tell you a lot. If you want to try eating lots of carbs like me and using a low-fat, plant-based whole food approach, we have a bunch of videos and articles to teach you everything you need to know. Watch this video to learn how low-fat, high-carb diets can reverse insulin resistance.